Hello, hello, everybody, and thank you so much for dropping in to Healing Body, Mind, and Soul with Aeriol. I'm super excited today because I have a very special guest by the name of Abe Kamarck, and I'm so excited to talk to him today. I'm just going to read you his introduction because I am so enthusiastic about this interview today. So Abraham is a health enthusiast and founder of True Made Foods. They make ketchup, barbecue sauce, and sriracha using veggies instead of sugar. Is that brilliant or what? Now, Abe is passionate about helping people to get beyond fad and hype in the diet world and stick to core nutritional principles. I know we can all relate to that. He can also tell us why it's the best time to start a food startup and how to manage all that with a family. He's amazing. He's got a great sense of humor and a great message to share with us all. Please welcome Abe. Abe, thanks for joining me today.
Aeriol, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Abe, can you tell all of our listeners, I love some of the funny stories that you've shared with me, but I love the story of how you got started in the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, it's crazy. I was 38 years old. I had just launched a coffee product for a charity here in Washington, D.C. So I kind of thought I'd learned the food business. I thought I'd learned the food business. I hadn't, but just beginning. And I was all into this coffee product, very excited about it. And the charity ran out of money, so they fired me. There was nothing I could do. So, yeah. And so I was crazy. I was a crazy person at that point because I was like, you know what, it's time for me to do my own thing and drive into it. You know, we've been a little bit successful so far. So, you know, it's like time to take the risk. It was actually a terrible time to take the risk because we had just had our fourth kid. My parents had just gotten divorced after 42 years of marriage. So, you know, there was like any type of safety net blown up. And, you know, but I was just a madman. I was obsessed and I loved the concept. I saw the opportunity. I thought there would be other parents like me out there who were struggling with the fact that their kids were pouring ketchup all over their food or that, you know, that loved cooking out, loved grilling and loved these American traditions like barbecue, but that had become so unhealthy. And when you peel it back, so one, I mean, with the ketchup, like I've always hated ketchup and the fact that my kids were pouring, I tried to get my kids not to eat ketchup and tried and failed and failed and failed. And so thought this was, you know, this was a core thing for me to try to solve. And then from the barbecue side, like we loved barbecue, loved it. And I was trying to pull away how it had become so unhealthy. And if you really look at it, barbecue on its own is, especially back, you know, the way they did it 50, 100 years ago was incredibly healthy. It was just, you know, it's real meat. It's the collagen injected parts of the meats. You're getting a ton of more collagen because, you know, that's the tough part of the meats and things like this. And that's why you have to smoke the barbecue to get that collagen to break down, the low and slow. What happened was the sugar that had just taken over the industry and especially in the barbecue sauces. And just, it covers up all the flavor. And it's literally one of the most unhealthy things in your refrigerator right now, ketchup and barbecue sauce and sriracha, actually, because Hoi Fong sriracha has more sugar in it than ketchup.
Oh, say it isn't so.
Yeah, it's a second ingredient. You don't realize it because the serving size is a teaspoon, so it only shows 1 gram of sugar per serving, but that's a teaspoon. And you know, if you're eating more than a teaspoon, it's probably the most sugar dense product that you have.
Abe, I have to tell you that I live in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area, and I know that my listeners in the Bay Area are shuddering in their boots about this sriracha information. that stuff pours like syrup.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certain the only thing worse could be syrup,
right? Right. Solid sugar. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I feel you. Yeah, I feel you. And it's one of those things like where, we had it in our fridge and I was using it until I read the ingredients. And, I'd been using it and been like, this is a little bit too sweet for a hot sauce. And I read the ingredients. And I was like, oh my God, I can't ever eat this again. Yeah, because if you read the top three ingredients in sriracha are peppers, sugar, salt. And yeah, and it's got per ounce. It's because if you break things down per ounce, then you can really compare, and it really brings things home. So sriracha has about 6.5 grams of sugar per ounce. Heinz ketchup or any other private label ketchup, regular ketchup, has 6.4 grams of sugar per ounce. Vanilla ice cream has 6 grams of sugar per ounce.
What?
Yes. So all of these things are more sugar dense than your desserts. And you think, oh, I'm only eating a little bit of it and things like this, but why? Why would you consume that? I mean, it's like injecting a little bit of sugar like into all of your food and taking something that was probably a healthy meal and making it incredibly unhealthy. When you think about it over time, like if an average family goes through maybe a bottle of ketchup a month, that a 20-ounce bottle of ketchup per month is the equivalent to something over approximately about 140 Krispy Kreme donuts a year worth of sugar. So that's almost a donut every other day that you're consuming, in sugar that your family is consuming right there. So, why do that? Why when you can cut that out and do something better? So, yeah, and so I'm always about trying to get more veggies in the diet. My core thing, there's so much misinformation and confusing information out there about nutrition and about what to eat, and so many fad diets and people trying to make money off of these diets and certifications. And, really at the end of the day, it always comes back to eat less refined foods, eat less processed foods, and eat more whole vegetables and fruits. You can't go wrong if you follow, that basic advice. And, that's what we tried to do. And what I'm trying to do with our products to show you, because our ketchup and our sriracha and our barbecue sauces taste amazing. Like they can compete with any conventional product out there. We have parents tell us all the time that they take our ketchup and they put it in Heinz bottles to, fool their kids. And our barbecue sauce is the only authentic healthy barbecue sauce out there. We work with a real pit master, Ed Mitchell, who is like, he's been voted the most authentic barbecue by the Southern Alliance. So sorry about that. And then yet, so we can compete with the authenticity and the flavor levels of anybody out there, but we are radically healthier because we're putting these extra veggies like carrots and butternut squash in to naturally sweeten our products and cutting the sugar significantly, if not completely, some of our products. 2 of our products are low sugar, so they're half or less of the sugar of a regular conventional product, and 2 of our products have no added sugar whatsoever. So they're paleo, they're completely healthy. Everything in there, it's like eating a smoothie, but it tastes like ketchup or sriracha.
That's wonderful. And I think that's got to be so great for kids. Now, I don't have kids. I'm not a parent, but I know a lot of my listeners are and a lot of my clients are. But I have worked in schools a lot. And I have been in a classroom of children right after lunch when they consume all of their sugary products and
Right.
all of their things. Now, I'm a music and drama teacher, so I have activities for kids. But I definitely notice the attention span, everything. I think it's a really huge problem. And if it's slipping in their regular food products, do you know what like
Yep.
you're saying, Abe, I'm a convert. There should be no ketchup in the school systems. There should be no ketchup.
Just our ketchup.
Right? Only your ketchup. Oh, yes. I mean, conventional ketchup.
Yeah, no conventional ketchup. Yeah, no, it's frustrating. And that was the other thing that was very frustrated with the natural food industry when I got into it, and I'm still frustrated with it, is that everybody seems to want to target, the 25-year-old, health and wellness, focused person. And there's not much, out there to help families. And, as a family, when you're a family, you're going out, you're kind of school lunches, school field trips, you're going to, Boy Scout events or, church picnics or barbecues or Little League cookouts. The high school football games, the concessions there, like people are just buying the cheapest stuff they can at Costco, and everything is junk. It's all highly processed, refined foods and refined sugars. And so your kids are constantly being exposed to this. You go to a restaurant and, the kids menu is terrible. And it's like the kids menu is designed to get the kids to eat ketchup. Everything around it is built around French fries or fried food. And, so it's very frustrating. I think we need to start as a society, complaining to definitely need to start complaining to food service operators, like to restaurant owners and, your office cafeteria and things like this, and demanding better products here and demanding better ketchups and things like this. Because they're not going to change without customer feedback, without seeing a demand in the, hit their bottom line. So I think that's important. And that's one of the reasons I started this too, because I want to create a product like our ketchup or barbecue sauce where we can keep, we don't have to radically change the Little League cookout, right? The Little League cookout can still go on. Everybody can, we have a 1-for-1 replacement for what they're using right there. That's getting, pounds of veggies into the diet, vice all that refined sugar. And nobody's noticing the difference and nobody's complaining, right? It doesn't require you don't have to cook, replace the Little League cookout with the kale and quinoa salad. You just need, you just use a little bit of better, use a much better ketchup. So now, granted, obviously I'm not saying, we joke in our marketing and stuff like that you don't need to eat veggies anymore if you use our products, but obviously you should eat lots. Radical. Eat all your veggies. Eat lots of veggies. I promise. That's my main thing is eat more veggies. But but I just want people to eat veggies more, and we use minimally processed foods, so like everything is pureed. It's not refined. We don't use juices. We don't use we don't use sugars. We use purees. So that means it's like a butternut squash that's been pureed and then it's cooked into the product. So you're losing some water and that's it. And it's really, you're getting the majority of the fiber. Our pureeing process captures 98% of the nutrients from the original vegetable.
That's amazing. Now, you were in the coffee business before you did this condiment business, as it were. What did you learn? What was the most important thing you learned in the coffee business that you took forward with you?
That's a good question. I think the problem with my experience in the coffee business is I wasn't quite in it long enough. So I thought I knew what I was doing when I started the condiment business, and I didn't. I had to spend 2 years learning. We radically ramped up the coffee business pretty fast. And I was launching the coffee for a charity. It was a social impact coffee. We did it for a foundation called Coexist. So I created a Coexist coffee, which one of my jobs, I was in the military a long time ago. I was in the Navy, I was a pilot, and then I worked in counterterrorism and got my MBA, and then I started working overseas. So I spent years before moving back to the US living in the Middle East and living in places like Africa and China and Bulgaria. And so the charity hired me because I was the type of person who could go to Eastern Uganda, find the coffee, import it back into the US and, create a brand around that. So I think what I missed there is when we were first getting started is like how important e-commerce was and pushed too hard on the retail. Now I think, e-commerce businesses, people, especially in San Francisco Bay Area, like they put a little bit too much weight into them. I think you still need retail. Grocery stores aren't going anywhere, unfortunately. You still retail business is where it's at in the long run for most products. Things like coffee, though, I think majority of coffee is actually going to be going online. There's a lot of coffee businesses that can really target niche audiences, and because you can make a couple $100 million just targeting a small population with coffee. Something like ketchup, not so much. Like we need to be in grocery stores more. So
in grocery stores, I really want to. I don't know why I'm an intuitive, Abe. So but I really want you. I really want you in every school system. Is I don't know where they're. I don't know what grocery store. I had an activist mother, and she worked a lot. With food sourcing for Santa Cruz County and that kind of thing. So I'm just thinking in those terms. I'm super impressed, Abe. I really like your commitment to do good in the community and for your family. I think this is the kind of business model that people should be looking at. And it's got that kind of sustainability, and it pulls at people's heartstrings, right? If they're really paying attention to their family's health, why would they want to ruin it by putting, frosting or sugar or, these things on it? And I think it's so easy, like you said, to pigeonhole and say, oh, eat your vegetables, but then, and then totally miss this part.
Right.
And I love your sort of covert operations, kind of sneak it in there under the radar with the kids. It's all awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
I really, really believe in your product. So how can our listeners find out more about what you're doing, Abe?
Well, obviously, our website's True Made Foods, truemade.foods.com, and you can follow us on Instagram at True Made Foods. Twitter is at True Made Foods. Facebook is / True Made Foods. And then, we're in the Bay Area. We're in all the Sprouts locations. Our ketchup and barbecue sauce is in all the Sprouts. You can find our sriracha online at Amazon. So if you go to amazon.com / True Made Foods, you can find all our products there too. We sell by the gallon jug there too, if you really love it. So. And so we're available, in all the Sprouts, and hopefully we'll be expanding to more stores soon in that area. We're an East Coast brand. We started them in Washington D.C. area, Virginia, and we started up and down the East Coast, and now we're trying to expand out nationally. So.
Well, I'm an advocate. I'm going to get myself over to Sprouts and see if I can get my hands on some of that ketchup. That is so amazing. I just love the community-minded aspect of your business too, Abe. It's very impressive to me. If there are any listeners out there who are thinking of starting their own something similar, what advice do you have to them? Somebody who's just starting out and wanting to create something like you've created.
I got to say, food is a tough business. The market is fantastic now for new food products. Like the market is, everybody's changing, right? People are looking for new products. There's no more brand loyalty to the old products anymore. And especially as the millennial generation gets older and Gen Z gets older, and they have more and more purchasing power, that's changing rapidly. I think you're going to see some big food companies, CPG companies, really struggle over the next decade if they don't radically change everything that they're doing. And so those are all good trends and great, the wave is moving in the right direction. So it's a great time from that aspect to get into the industry. The challenge is that the industry itself, like the infrastructure, the distributors, the retailers, everything is very much like 150-year-old industry that has not changed much. And they are very used. The retailers and the distributors know that they need these new, better for you products, and they want them, but they have trouble changing the way they do business, right? And to accommodate younger, newer brands. These days, right now, even though I say like Amazon is not always a long-term, or online sales is not always a long-term strategy, it's a great way to get started and to test your product out and to start building a following and to really kind of refine your product and test it and make sure it's working well and make sure there's a real audience for it before you get into some of the more expensive retailers, things like this, and really take bigger risks. And so I would definitely start online first and in local stores, things like that. And just be really tough on yourself. I think the mistakes that we made early, we've always had really good product. I've always been super product focused, like always constantly refining the recipe, constantly refining the flavor to try to get the great product. What I ignored, because I'm a food person, so I was just obsessed with the food, right? And what I ignored a little bit was the branding and the packaging. The packaging was critical. So like the labels, stuff like this. And our first labels really did not sell at all. Like they were just terrible. And so that cost us a lot. And so that was a big problem. And that's the other thing too, is when you start moving from online to in-store, your packaging does need to change, because online it's very easy to make call. You write things, see things like this, and things that look good online in images may not look good on the shelf and may not stand out on the shelf. To make sure you test that out and really spend time and be very tough on yourself on your labels, and be careful who you get advice from, because everybody has an opinion about your label, and it doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. So
right. I know exactly. I know you speak the truth here, because I have a girlfriend who developed a product line that is grain-free for life, where she made dessert mixes that are non-gluten dessert mixes. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, she is spending so much time with her colors, with her labels, with everything like this. And I thought it was a little bit odd, but in the long run, I think that it really served her. And so that really echoes what you're saying here, Abe. So I think that if any of our listeners are thinking of taking a deep dive in that area, that they should definitely take heed and have somebody really look at their packaging and look at all their branding stuff. That's wonderful. Do you hit the pavement and do trade shows or speaking events, Abe?
Oh yeah, all the time. We're at Expo East next week in Baltimore, which is luckily just close to me, so good to drive there. But yeah, it's yeah, we do. I'm on the road all the time. So that's the most difficult part about doing this business, is really you are on the road a lot once you start growing pretty significantly, because you really do have to hit the ground. You got to get into stores. You got to go to sales meetings. So that means sometimes flying across the country for like a 20-minute meeting, you know.
Right. Well, it's a gold-plated problem, Abe. I wish you so much success, and I hope that our listeners can take a little bit of advice from you, and I hope everybody's family starts to read labels and really look at how much sugar that everybody is consuming. Do you think that with products like this, I just had another flash. Do you think that with products like this, Abe, we're changing the palate of youngsters so that they'll want less of the yucky stuff later on?
I mean, I hope so. I mean, luckily, our products are pretty sweet, but they're not sweet in that same kind of high fructose corn syrup sweetness. So kids don't miss out on anything. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, there isn't an important thing that we need to start training the palates of people to think that, you know, and that a strawberry is sweet, not a strawberry candy, you know, and that's something that we've made a mistake on. We've made a mistake in the last 2 generations, is that, you know, our bodies are designed to crave sweetness because things like a butternut squash or a sweet potato or a strawberry or a raspberry are sweet, and those are high nutrient dense items, and that's why our bodies crave those types of things. That's why they crave sweetness. And here we've taken out everything out of a strawberry except for the sugar, you know, molecule, and that's what we're feeding ourselves. Right? And that is the problem. And we've raised the sweetness so high, like and one of my recent things we were talking about, somebody asked me in a recent interview, like, well, do you do birthday cakes and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, of course we do. We still do stuff like that. I'm lucky my wife is a good baker, and she does things like, what she started doing early on is she would look at the recipes her mom used from like the 1970s, and she would just cut the sugar in half in some of these things and realize that it tasted just as good. And then she would just keep cutting the sugar until, you know, you couldn't get away with it anymore. And then, you know, obviously even in her baking, we hide in veggies and stuff like that. Obviously zucchini bread is a prime example, banana bread, you know, these things you can easily, do that. And you can do that with other things like other squashes, carrots, stuff like that. Pureeing them and, you know, baking them into stuff. So you can find new ways to cut all this stuff out and really start to change the palate of youngsters slightly without making a huge sacrifice. Because yeah, people should think an apple is sweet. You should think an apple is sweet. You shouldn't think that you need apple juice to be sweet, right?
Right, absolutely. One of our other experts was on here, and she was telling me that her clients are so out of whack with what they want to eat that there's actually a fear of fruit. Like people aren't eating fruit because they're so afraid of sugar. But
yeah, I've encountered that. That's part of the keto phase, which I think is keto. I think in general is very good, but like anything, you take it too far. You know, people have criticized me for putting carrots in my ketchup, which, you know, because before keto, and then I'm like, oh, guys, you're missing the point. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
there
so
is.
glad that you're here to bring some sense and some neutrality here. Good job. Well, Abe, I just want to thank you so much for being on today. I promise I won't pull any more flash questions on you. That's just
No
kind of my
worries.
style. I really
Oh,
enjoyed my time with you.
same.
And all of the information for your contact information and the names of your products will be in the show notes, as well as a beautiful picture of you and your 4 boys and your lovely wife. I want to thank you so much for joining me. And for all of our listeners, until next time, happy healing.